One of the number one things people complain about, and in my own experience as well, with owning an electric car is the tires. They just seem to not last very long. So today we're going to go over 7 tips and tricks for your Tesla tires to hopefully make them last longer and stay in as good a shape as possible. As well as we're going to review this very cool little air compressor designed to go inside your Tesla. Now I have 2 Teslas. I have a 2019 and a 2022. My 2019 is an all-wheel drive Model 3. And after just 14,500 miles, I had to replace all my tires. I took it in for a flat tire, and Les Rob told me, these are so bad, we won't even replace these. We're not even going to fix this tire. You've got to replace them all. In the past, I replaced my tires around 40, 50,000 miles, and all of a sudden now, at 14, that was quite an eye-opener. So I got a lot of advice on how to preserve tires. I talked to a bunch of you who taught me a whole bunch of great stuff. And so today we're going to talk about those 7 tips and tricks that I learned that have allowed me to now have 40,000 miles on my Model 3 and the tires are still going strong, as well as now almost 20,000 miles on our Model Y, again, still going strong. Let's get into it. So tip number 1, why do electric cars need to replace their tires in a much shorter time frame than say a gas car? There's really 2 things it comes down to. First is that they're just a lot heavier. As a point of reference, a Honda Civic weighs about 3,000 pounds, whereas the Tesla Model Y weighs about 4,500 pounds. When you combine that with almost instant torque, you end up leaving a lot of rubber on the road. And that even includes when you're trying to drive like your grandma. It's just gonna happen. Now, the length of time your tires will last depends on many factors, such as driving style, road conditions, maintenance, etc. But in theory, an 18-inch aero wheel will last longer than a 19-inch or 20-inch. And this is due to the larger sidewalls, but this really may not make all that much of a difference. Chances are those other factors are going to have a bigger role to play. When I got my Model 3 tires replaced at 14,500 miles, Les Rob told me that their average Tesla that comes in there gets them replaced between 14 and 17,000, which is just nuts. Now, according to Tesla's manual, they claim they should be replaced about every 6 years, which is just like, how is that even possible? So tip or factor, whatever number 1, is just accept that your tires are gonna have to be replaced sooner. This is normal. Don't freak out if this happens to you. You didn't necessarily do something wrong, but there are some things you can do to really prolong those, and we're gonna talk about that next. So the first way to do that is through tire rotations. Now, Tesla recommends this every 6,250 miles, but according to the tire shops that I've gone to, they recommend doing this about every 3,000 to 4,000 miles. And to be honest, this is probably the biggest change that I've made to make my tires last so much longer. So the whole purpose of a tire rotation is to make sure that the tires are all being worn evenly. What happens if you don't rotate the tires is you may have 3/4 of the tire that's actually not too bad. They can actually last another 10, 20 miles, but because you didn't rotate them, certain parts of the tire are worn down way too far and they're now needing to be replaced. So by rotating them, it shifts that wear point around on the tire, allowing you to really extend the life of that tire. Next, anytime you replace a tire or do some kind of a rotation or anything to do with the tire being swapped out of any form, you want to go into your settings and update your tire configuration. The way to do this is go into your controls, service, you go to wheels and tire, and then click on tires. This resets what the car knows about the old set of tires, and this will help improve your driving experience as the car learns about the new tires. Also, automatically your car is set to kind of trigger you to do the rotation every 6,250. So when you do put new tires on by pressing that and redoing the configuration, it also resets that clock so you won't get that notice at like 1,000 or 2,000. Now, there might be some companies that do this themselves when they do replace your tires, especially if Tesla comes out to you as a mobile service and does a tire rotation. But if you have a friend or you yourself swap them out, make sure you go in there and do that. Even if you're putting on winter tires, don't forget to go in there and just hit that reconfiguration. Now, I have 4 more tips to go that really help preserve your tires. But first, let's take a couple minutes and review a very cool tire accessory that goes really well with our topic today. And it is their portable air compressor. And this thing is really cool. And here's what you should know about it. It has the ability to inflate a tire from 3 to 150 PSI. It supports fast 60-watt high-speed charging, which means it takes just 30 minutes to get a full charge, and it charges via USB-C. So again, this can be charged inside of your Tesla. It has a powerful Ally casting cylinder, which basically means you can put this on your low-profile, high-performance tires on electric cars, and it's going to be able to handle the pressure. In fact, this was designed specifically for EVs. So whereas a lot of these are just designed for tires in general, so the cylinders really aren't all that strong, this one is going to be able to handle it. You get a really large display screen, which you can set it from bar to PSI. It shows the battery strength. You get different modes from car, motorcycle, bike, or ball. So I can set this to 42 PSI. PSI, and then I can essentially walk away. It's going to pump it up to 42 PSI, and then it'll just shut off. And then while it's doing that, it'll also show the current PSI it's at, so you can see just how close it's getting. On the top, you have a detachable air hose, a USB-C port, and a light. So the kit comes with a shockproof case, needle valve adapter, press valve adapter, and a USB-C cable. And you also get these pretty cool looking valve caps, which I think go really well, and they're also rubber sealed, so it's going to help. And so I connected it up to my 2019 Model 3, and I went from 39 PSI to 42 PSI with absolutely no problem. I think there's a lot of tools inside of a car that just make a lot of sense to kind of keep with you. So if you have a newer vehicle or a Model Y, you can plug it in the glove box to charge it while it's even sitting in there. And then when I'm not using this, I keep it inside my little pull-out drawer in my Model Y with my vacuum. So JOWUA sells this for $69.95, but of course I got you guys a discount, so I'll put it right here on the screen, and then I'll also put it down below in the description as well as my affiliate link. So if you think this might be useful for you guys, go down there and check it out. Now let's get back to tip number 4. So when you are replacing your tires, you want to replace all of them at the same time. So if you're replacing them because they're worn, if they're flat, it's a little different. But if you replace them because they're worn, always replace all 4 at the same time. Again, this comes back to them wearing equally. So you want to make sure they're all the same size, the same diameter, the same brand, and the same construction. Now, if you do get a flat tire and need to replace a tire, Tesla recommends that you replace them in pairs unless the other tire is within 1.5 millimeters of the new tire. So if the other tire is fairly new and it's got plenty of thread on it, obviously just replace that. I've gotten 4 flat tires in the last year. We've only ever replaced just that tire because my tires are still fairly new and still meet that recommendation. They're getting close, but like it says, if you do need to replace them, try to do the pair, both in the front or both in the back. And of course, anytime you do that, reset the configuration. Tip number 5, and again, this one seems small, but it makes a big difference, is keep your tires at the correct tire pressure. Right inside the driver's door, there's a little sticker right on the side panel, and that will tell you what the recommended PSI for your tires is. Mine's 42, but on Tesla's manual, it says between 40 and 45, so I think anywhere in that range, you're probably fine. Now, one thing that the majority of people are noticing right now is that the tires PSI is just, you wake up one morning, it's just lower. As the weather gets colder, the PSI in your tires drops. Mine went from 42 down to 36. And so obviously this is going to pump that back up to 42. Now, you may have a big shop at home and a big air compressor. Obviously use that. It's going to be faster. But this is going to be for that person who lives in an apartment complex or is maybe traveling and the weather changes and you don't want to go to some gas station, try to figure out how to, hook it up to a compressor there. Do you even have a valve or a tire gauge with you? This little 8-inch thing is going to be able to save you in all those circumstances. Again, this is not for the guy who's at home with a big garage and a big air compressor in it. This doesn't make any sense for that, obviously. But it's everyone else, everywhere else, that it makes a ton of sense. Now, if you've been around my channel a while, you know no one has ever accused me of being some kind of a mechanic. But what I'm told is that if your tire pressure gets too low, that creates more drag on the road as well as it causes your tires to wear differently. So keeping your PSI right allows your car to get better range or the proper range, as well as keep the wear the way it's supposed to be. Next, number 6 seems obvious, but I never did it until someone reminded me, and that is to check weekly for any punctures in your tire. One thing to remember is not all punctures leak until all of a sudden you come out to your car one day and it's flat. But if you run over some kind of a nail or some other sharp object, it could lodge inside of your tire and seal it off until all of a sudden it doesn't. And the next thing you know, you're in a spot where you can't really replace it or do anything about it, and you got a flat tire. Whereas if you went to your car that morning, still got a full tire, you see the puncture, you could have driven it down to a tire center, had that fixed real quick, and you'd be on your way. So that's one really nice thing you can do that's super easy, just takes a little bit of effort. Just check your tires as often as you think about it. Maybe set a reminder in your phone or something. Just walk around your tires. Make sure there's no punctures, so there's no surprises. And then the last tip, number 7, and I'm not saying I condone this, and that is to drive less aggressively. And not just aggressively going straight, but when you're turning corners as well. If you're turning corners and you're accelerating while you're doing that, aggressively, that's going to really add a ton of wear onto your tires. And personally, if I'm ever going to have a reason for wearing my tires out faster, it's going to be this one. Not because I just neglected to do a tire rotation or I just didn't check my tires for something stuck in them or whatever. I love the acceleration of these Teslas, and any chance I get, I love to punch it. So yes, in theory, this absolutely would save me even more, but come on. It's so fun. Now, I know many of you guys are experts at this topic and know so many more ways to make your tires last longer and have advice to expand on some of the topics we covered today. So please do everyone a favor and put it down below in the description. Anything you guys can do to help the Tesla community learn and grow. That's what my channel's been around from the beginning. Please do that and let us know down in the comments. So if you enjoy these tips videos, show me by hitting a like to this video and definitely subscribe. And if you haven't already, check out the other tips series I'll list down below in the description description of this video.